Hey guys, chapter two with fractions, we'll talk about how to show a fraction as a decimal. We'll also talk about adding and subtracting decimals using like terms, making sure the denominator is the same. Also, um, talking about what we need to do when we divide a fraction and multiply a fraction. So right off the bat, if you take a look at questions one and two, all you actually really need is a calculator, and you will be allowed to use a calculator on your district math assessment and end of the year assessment. So when using a calculator, think about once again 8 going into 5 for problem number 1, and you're going to see that it will not go in. So therefore, you would type in obviously 5 divided by 8 on your calculator, and you will get 0.625. What does that mean? Well, that basically means that you have 625 out of 1,000. So this number is 625 thousandths. Okay, that's 625 out of 1,000 is an equivalent fraction. So to write this as a decimal, it is 0.625. Uh, Problem number two, once again, 2 divided by 11. As you know, a fraction is something that is less than one whole, and what you will get is 0.18. It is a repeating decimal, which means that the 1/8 will continue forever. Therefore, they're using this bar to signify that it is a repeating decimal. This is 18 hundredths. 18 out of 100 would be the rounded fraction. Take a look at questions 3 through 8, and you'll see, for example, problem number 3, you can subtract 1 from 7 as a fraction because the denominator is the same. So this is 6/10. One thing you will be required to do on district math tests and also end of the year tests, you will have to simplify. So 6/10 is not simplified. You'll have to divide the top and bottom by 2, which will 2 over 2, which will equal 3/5. 3/5 is a simplified fraction for 6 out of 10. Okay. If you take a look at question number 4, the two fractions do not have the same denominator. Therefore, you cannot add or subtract these two fractions until you make like terms. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply 3/5 by 2 over 2. We're going to multiply the numerator by 2 and then the denominator by 2. And 2 over 2 is basically 1. And so that's why we're not changing the value of that fraction. 3/5 times 2 over 2 is 6/10. And then we're going to multiply 5 over 5 because we want that denominator to be 10. This is a number that both 5 and 2 have a factor of. It's the common factor of 5 and 2 is 10. So multiples of 5 and 2 are 10. So we now have a equivalent fraction 5/10. Now we are going to add across the numerator. 6 plus 5 is 11, and we do have an improper fraction because as you can see, the numerator is larger than the denominator. This basically means we need to reconform that fraction improperly. This is now a mixed number, so 1 1/10 is the answer for problem number 4. Problem number 5 is a mixed number. What does that mean? Well, it means that you have a whole number and a part of a whole. And so what we're going to do is just add the wholes together. 2 plus 1 is 3, and then we're going to add the parts. That's 3/8 plus 1/8. As you can see, we can't add those two fractions because they do have the same denominator. That is 3 4/8. But we're not done yet. This fraction needs to be written in its simplest form, and 3 1/2 is written as the simplest form. What we would do is we would just divide both numerator and denominator by 4 over 4, and 4 divided by 4 is 1. 8 divided by 4 is 2, and therefore now we have 3 1/2. I'm not going to I guess I was going to say I was not going to do problem number 6, but I should anyways, because what I want to show you is that you cannot subtract 7/10 from 2/5. But what we want to do is change that fraction into 4/10. Now we can solve this problem. 5 and 4/10 minus 3 and 7/10. Remember, the denominators, the bottom numbers, need to be the same. And if you do not have the same denominators, you cannot add or subtract. You need to figure out a way to make an equivalent fraction. 5 and 2/5 is equivalent to 5 and 4/10. And remember, equivalent means equal to. Problem number 7, we're going to convert this mixed number into an improper fraction. We're going to multiply the whole times the denominator. So 5 times 2 is 10, plus the 1 is 11. So this is 11 halves. Why are we doing this? Well, because we're going to just basically multiply the two fractions by one another. When we are multiplying fractions, we just multiply n times n, so numerator times numerator, and denominator times denominator. Frankly, multiplication and division of fractions are actually easier than addition and subtraction of fractions. So now we multiply the numerators across. That's 33 over 22. And as you can see, this is an improper fraction. Basically, we have one whole, which is 22 over 22, and then we have 11 left. And this is 1 and 11 20-seconds. What do you notice about this fraction? I want you to just think about this for a second. Could we simplify this? Well, as you can see, multiples of 11, 11 times 2 is 22. So yes, we could divide both numerator and denominator by 11, and we would get 1 and 1/2. Okay, so usually they will not mark you wrong, but when they ask for simplest form, then you need to simplify your answer or it will be marked wrong. Problem number 8, 5/6 divided by 1/3. When you see a division of a fraction, just know that you are going to multiply by the inverse number. Basically, the denominator is now the numerator, and the numerator is now the denominator. So 1/3 inversely flipping numerator and denominator is 3 over 1, and then you just multiply straight across. So 5 times 3 is 15, and then 6 times 1 is 6. We have 15/6. As you can see, 5 times 3, boom, right over there. 6 times 1, boom. And now 6 goes into 15 two times. 2 times 6 is 12. So you have a numerator of 3. That's the leftover portion. 2 and 3, 6. It is not simplified. You're going to have to simplify this by dividing both numerator and denominator by 3 over 3, which will give you 2 and 1/2. I'm going to go ahead and end this lesson. We didn't really cover much about conversions, but 1 inch will be equal to 2.54 centimeters. They will probably give you a chart for most conversions. 1 pound is equal to 0.45 kilograms. One of the things that I usually do is just kind of use repeated addition. So if you have 10 inches, you know that 1 inch is 2.54 centimeters. You could just then multiply this 2.54 times 10, and that'll tell you the number of centimeters that is equal to 10 inches. Okay, and with that being said, I think you should not have any difficulties converting mixed numbers into improper fractions or vice versa, adding and subtracting fractions, comparing and contrasting what is greater than or less than. What I would probably do is when comparing these fractions, think about a number line. And if you take a look at, for example, like problem number 9, I would probably create a number line. These are two negative numbers. So we have -1, we have -2, and then we have -3. What you're going to see is that these two numbers fit within this range from -2 to -3. So we're going to break this up into 6. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 parts, but it's actually 6 parts. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This whole has been broken up into 6. So I'm going to use a different color, but you're going to see that -2 and 1/6 is right here, and then -2 and 5/6 is right there. So the negative 2 and 1/5/6 or 5/6 is actually further away from 0, and that means it's smaller. Remember, these numbers are getting smaller and smaller, and therefore 2 and 1/6, which is right here, is greater than. It is closer to 0. It's closer to the positive numbers. These are the positive numbers. So as you can see, this number right here, the 2 and 1/6, the negative 2 and 1/6 is greater than. So hopefully this 10-minute small little mini lesson will help you to be successful with all the concepts that are related to 7th grade fraction work. Have a good day. Bye, guys.